Our guest of honor has arrived. The program should be starting in a few minutes. We may be seated. Our guest of honor, Honorable Felix Mutati, the Acting UN Coordinator, Mr. Lionel Lorenz, the Director of Planning, Mr. John Shimbela, here representing the Permanent Secretary for Ministry of Technology and Science, and the Director, Department of Communications, Mr. Miona Makuni, heads of various institutions and statutory bodies represented here, CEOs, and may I simply say, all protocols observed. Good morning once again. I want to welcome you all to this breakfast meeting where we're here to launch Zambia's Inclusive Digital Economy Status Report. At this point in time, I will request that we stand up for the national anthem. Thereafter, we're going to have an opening prayer from Madam Kili from the UNCDF. Shall we all stand?
Thank you. Let us pray. Dear Lord, we bow before your throne this morning because I want to say thank you. Thank you for this nation of ours that is peaceful. Thank you for the people that are in this room. Thank you for every person that has been part of this report from day one. Lord, today we ask and we invoke your spirit to be with us so that the day should actually move according to your will. We thank you for loving us. We thank you for protecting this country. We thank you for having a wonderful administration that is looking after all things that are important to the Zambian nation and to the people. As we start and as we deliberate, we put this day in your hands. We ask and we pray for all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you for the prayer. We may be seated. My name is Sylvia. I'll be your Master of Programs for this morning. Honorable, I think we need teachers next time to take us through all the verses of the national anthem. At this moment, I'm going to invite Mr. John Shimbela, the Director of Planning, who's here on behalf of the Permanent Secretary to give his welcome remarks.
The guest of honor, Honorable Minister of Technology and Science, the representative of the UN Resident Coordinator, various colleagues representing various departments and parastatal institutions. Honorable Minister, on behalf of the Permanent Secretary, I'm just here to welcome everybody to the meeting. To the launch of this wonderful report, which is acting as an input into the digital policy and transformation vision that you are providing. And of course, Honorable, being under your guidance, I'm not supposed to speak a lot other than to welcome everybody and indeed make sure that everybody is in anticipation of what you are going to share with us in your speech when launching this particular report. So I'm not going to say a lot of things, and just to welcome everybody to this special launch of this report on behalf of the Permanent Secretary, and I hope we'll have a wonderful time. Thank you, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Director. I'd like to mention that we are also being joined by various participants online. We want to say welcome and good morning to those joining us online as well. Our next presenter will have remarks from Mr. Isaac Holly. This is the UNCDF country lead. He will be joining us virtually as well. Do we have the next presenter ready?
Hello, good morning. Please let me know if I'm audible.
Are we able to have the UNCDF country lead join us online?
Hello, good morning, everyone. Am I audible? Hello.
Good morning, Isaac.
Good morning. Am I audible?
Very loud and clear. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much, Madam Sylvia. The Honorable Felix Mutati, Minister of Technology and Science, Mr. Lionel Loren, UNRC in acting capacity, Director John Chimbela, representing the Permanent Secretary, Minister of Technology and Science, senior government officials present here, heads of cooperation and development partners present in this room, representatives from the UN system, members of civil society, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. Although still in its nascent state, the fourth industrial revolution is here with us, and it is significantly driven by technology, innovation, and science. Daily, we observe the fourth industrial revolution through the swift pace and changes that and disruption that are shaping businesses and society today. The time to accelerate into the fourth revolution is now. However, the fundamental questions that we ask ourselves, while mitigating the negatives that potentially come along with technology, is Zambia ready to exploit the positives and benefits of smart technology, innovation, and science to meaningfully include and impact all citizens? This is the fundamental question we ask ourselves. The United Nations Development System, UNCDF in particular, is honored to partner with the Ministry of Technology and Science on this journey of examining and dissecting Zambia's digital transformation status. The launch of this report is only the precursor to concrete policy development, and we hope the information from this report will clearly highlight priority areas for partnership and a set of activities towards building an inclusive digital economy that leaves no Zambian behind in this digital era. We also hope that the information from this report will be vital in spearheading the next phase of digital economy development in Zambia. On behalf of the UN Development System, the UNCDF remains humbled and continues to be available throughout Zambia's digital transformation journey. The long path that lies ahead will require concerted efforts, collaboration, and partnerships, of course, led by the government of Zambia, with the involvement of the private sector, civil society, and development partners. Zambia is not alone on the journey of digital economy. Globally, a number of economies have already embarked on their digital transformation journey. And in host countries where UNCDF is present, and together with the majority of other UN agencies, our operations are promoting and supporting digital transformation efforts of these host nations. This, as well as helping the host nations with inclusion of digital technologies into key sectors such as education, health, finance, transportation, climate resilience, smart agriculture, and amongst others. It is in our hope that the government of the Republic of Zambia will also involve the UNCDF and the entire UN development system in new aspiration for a digitally driven and inclusive Zambian economy. Allow me to speak briefly about digital transformation. Technology is rapidly developing in diverse fields, including mobile communication, robotics, artificial intelligence, machine learning, agri-tech, health tech, ed tech, and generally the Internet of Things. We are already experiencing the profound change that these new technologies bring to the way we live, the way we work, the way we interact, and the way we do businesses. Not surprising, these technologies are also rapidly emerging today and are shaping the world now, tomorrow, and deep into the future. This with significant impact on economies and society at large. With the dawn of the fourth industrial revolution, we therefore need to proactively and collectively seek ways that will help all Zambians to leverage digital technologies for development and technologies that will better their day-to-day lives. The UNCDF believes that the creation of the new Ministry of Technology and Science is therefore a step in the right direction. I don't want to preempt the report presentation session, but it is evident that Zambia has fairly well-articulated policies and regulations that are progressive to digital growth. We also observe the goodwill from the government of Zambia towards a digitally connected and enabled Zambia. It's also evident that most government ministries and agencies are actively promoting digital transformation. What baffles us at the UNCDF is why this progressiveness is not trickling down to realisms and spurring a digital developed economy with greater depth in Zambia. The UNCDF therefore opines that there are some fundamentals that the government of Zambia, the private sector, and the development partners need to urgently confront. First is developing and in some scenarios enhancing the available digital infrastructure, which is the fundamental of digital economies. This will of course include reliable and affordable internet connectivity, fiber networks, digital devices such as smartphones, cell phone connectivity, and amongst others. However, this will also require the financial sector to join in this clarion call as significant enablers. Financing is paramount, yet still remains a glaring challenge to resolve. Secondly, building human resource with the right digital skill sets is a key driving force for digital transformation in Zambia. In-depth digital literacy will be essential for people to take full advantage of new job opportunities and benefits from the services that will become available through digital platforms. We need to consider the need to involve and embed digital literacy into school curriculum, while also current and upcoming cohorts of data engineers and data scientists need to be equipped with the new trends and digital skills required for them to innovate and also ably participate in the global digital arena. Third, we need to assess the policies and regulatory environment. In circumstances where enhancing existing policies and regulations will be required, we must do so. In circumstances that existing policies and regulations are retrogressive to digital transformation, bold and appropriate actions, including reforms and overhauls, must be made. In circumstances where there is a lack of enabling policies and regulations, those need to be developed. And lastly, Zambia already has or possesses a reliable national ID system infrastructure. However, this has largely remained in the manual form. There exist other forms of recognized IDs such as driving license, birth certificates, and passports, but most of these continue to remain in the manual form. Transforming and harmonizing the various ID systems into a digital ID infrastructure has the potential to support the government of Zambia in the development agenda, bring efficiencies, and eliminate the barriers that marginalized groups face as a result of lacking an official ID and an ID that is easily verifiable. But if this is also accomplished, the digital ID system has to be expanded to benefit or to have beneficial use cases such as eKYC, e-transport, e-education, e-health, amongst others. In conclusion, This report is only the beginning. We hope to see the revised ICT policy and the National Digital Transformation Strategy launched soon. The hard yet significant phase of the digital transformation journey will actually manifest itself with the implementation of both the ICT policy and the digital transformation strategy. Again, this will require partnership, collaboration, technical expertise, significant financial support. I congratulate the Ministry of Technology and Science for the accomplishment of this phase. UNCDF wishes you the very best and also commits to work with you in the journey ahead. I thank you.
Thank you, Isaac, for those remarks. One key question he raised is Zambia ready? Are we ready to explore the full benefits that technology has to offer? And I believe we are, looking at the high-level representation that we have here from the various institutions. Honorable Minister, we have had quite an informative working relation with UNCDF. At this point, we have actually adopted some of them as Zambian. Kelly is now fully Zambian. She's no longer Malawian, she's now Zambian. We're now going to have a presentation on the overview of the 2022 Zambia Digital Inclusive Economy Status Report from Director Communications, Mr. Miona Makoni.
Good morning, and all protocols observed. I'll ride on the protocols that have already been raised, and the Honorable Minister, the acting UN coordinator. I was following very carefully as the presentation was being made, and there was a key question that Sylvia repeated. Is Zambia ready to exploit the digital tools, the ICTs, and also the innovation? Very key question indeed. And almost preempted my presentation by showing an area where we are doing very well, at least from the scorecard that we're looking at today. It showed that policy and regulation is quite positive development. But the question again was, why does it not trickle down to be felt, the impact to the lower levels, so that the services or the benefits can be felt by ordinary people? So today, I'm privileged to present the Inclusive Digital Economy Scorecard. If you read the words, Inclusive Digital Economy Scorecard, we give it a short acronym to say IDAS, or IDES, and this is a strategic performance and measuring tool that was developed so that countries can be able to support the countries to prioritize areas in the socio-economic development using the digital platforms. So this IDES is a tool. And like the director planning has mentioned, this is a process we've started so that we show how we're going to have a benchmark that helps us to move to develop our new ICT policy, which is now could have outlived its usefulness because it's 2006 and today is 2022. So this is part of the process of knowing where we are, get this benchmark to inform the ICT policy. This is part of where we are to give us a status to help us also from the policy framework to answer the question, why does it not trickle down? It's because we'd like to show that from the policy, there should be practical steps that will inform activities and interventions, and hence the digital transformation strategy that will come alongside the ICT policy 2022, which look forward, and hopefully before mid-year, we need to have the ICT policy launched. And this today is the basis of what we're going to read and understand where we are and set certain questions that will be addressed or that are being addressed in the ICT policy. So starting our presentation, we'll start first with the background. And like all other countries, Zambia has a 2030 vision where the country wants to direct all the efforts of socio-economic development. And this is broken down into 5-year plans, which we call national development plans. And this national development plan, we find that it's very evident, especially for the period of the Inclusive Digital Economy Scorecard performance report, which was assessed in the last 5 years. This gives us an opportune time to see that in the 7th National Development Plan, the digital use of digital tools was actually at the center of our 7th National Development Plan. We find that now the 8th National Development Plan, which is also has a very mention that too, that will, and at the same time, we have the digital transformation strategy that starts 2022 to 2026. It's very evident that it also goes alongside the 8th National Development Plan. So we're trying to harmonize and synchronize all these strategies to ensure that they show a coordinated approach and harmonized approach to socio-economic development using our digital platform. So now let's go to the approach that was taken. The approach to the IDES was that of a multi-stakeholder. It wasn't a government only. We have had the private sector, we have had the non-government actors. Of course, we had the government institutions, including our agencies that came together, who with our development partners, the cooperating partners were also involved. And in our evaluation, we used certain tools. So we did not just use the digital inclusive scorecard, but we also used the traditional assessment for the external factors. We actually looked at the pastel. Now the pastel, you know, it has political, economic, social, technological, environmental, and also the legal. Now that was one of the tools that we used to ensure that we look at the external factors. We did not just leave it there. We also looked at the internal factors and we used the traditional SWOT analysis. So we had the pastel, we had the SWOT analysis, and then all these, we pointed it out to the digital inclusive scorecard that had 4 pillars. Those 4 pillars are: number 1, policy and regulation. So we had one scorecard where we are assessing policy issues and regulatory issues, and this also includes the strategic planning of the government. And the second one is digital skills. It's very important, like it has already been alluded to, that you can have the technology, you can have the policy, but what about the people? There's a very key issue about how systems are known to include people, processes, and technology. So people is very vital because without the people, then where shall we measure the demand side of things, the consumers of the services? So digital skills is very important, both for financial skills, technical skills, and also even the digital literacy of the populace. Otherwise, they can't consume the services that are being provided, or they cannot use the tools of the digital platforms and innovation to create products and services. The next one is infrastructure. And this infrastructure is a third pillar in the scorecard. And I know as we shall look at it in detail, we'll be able to show where we are in terms of digital infrastructure and how digital infrastructure is not looked at as just towers, as fiber, but we look at digital infrastructure for service. And the next one also is innovation and entrepreneurship. If our youths are not creative, if the population is not using creativity and innovative ideas, we shall be a net importer of everything. And we are saying no. There should be a scorecard pillar that platform. So let me quickly now go to the overview and just now to get straight to how Zambia scored. Out of 100%, Zambia scored 45%. And if you look at this, but our colleagues that are online, I think, are able to see that it has, first, this scorecard has got a maturity model kind of, meaning we have the first part, which shows that the country is at inception. What constitutes inception? It's 0% to 25%. So after we have scored under infrastructure, under policy, under skills, and under innovation and entrepreneurship, we add them together, then we find that we are at 25% and below, then we are in the inception. Then you know what to do next. Startup is between 25% to 50%. That is the other category that countries are measured upon, against. The next one is expansion. That's when you are moving from 50% to 75%. And then finally, all countries are aiming to be at consolidation level. This is the 100% score mark. When we do 75 to 100%, then it means that we are on the level of consolidation. So to just wrap it up, we have the inception. Number 2, we have the startup. Number 3, expansion, and we aim to reach consolidation. Talking to our colleagues and our senior management and our partners, it's very clear that if it were possible, Zambia needs to leapfrog from 45%, and this 45% meaning we are just at the top end of the startup phase, just nearing ready to go to the transition, and then we go to expansion. It's very clear that we are not comfortable, because 45%, even if at university, some of us used to get 45 and say we have passed, it means you know less than half of what was supposed to. That's not good enough, not so. It's not good enough. So this score that has been shown shows that if you see there on 45%, that's overall how we have performed. Then we also try to look at the inclusiveness component. We know that inclusiveness talks about the disadvantaged, the rural women, the youths, and all those that are predominantly not accessing services through these digital platforms. And hence, we find that in this, we didn't score very well in terms of the digital divide is still predominantly showing at a higher level. Laws, electronic it was at 40. These are rounded up figures as you, I would love to preempt quite in detail because you definitely have access to the soft copy and also the hard copies that will be circulated, and you can read and use it for your planning and our planning as one whole government together with our partners. Now let's quickly now, as I'm winding up now, going straight to the actual detailed report. So we start with policy regulation, and we are saying, yes, government has been very active to promote digital economy contributes. And then we've seen that even institutional framework, we have the Ministry of Technology and Science dedicated for technology and science to cross-cut all areas in the social sector, in the economic sector, so that we can see how we can have a reform, a change on how we do things, thanks with the help of digital platforms and innovation. Then we also show that definitely there's quite a lot that has happened to allow issues of legislation, regulations that are pro-growth, and this can still be seen that despite scoring at this much, we can show below there areas where we are saying there are gaps. Number one, the first area of a gap is that despite that we have very good policy and regulation, it's important to operationalize the policy and regulatory features. And one of the regulatory features is the issue of, despite the benefit of digital platforms and services, we know that there's also some threats in terms of cybersecurity. And this has to be strengthened. The next one is the regulations and policies need to be enabled and harmonized with existing regulation. Digital transformation in terms of regulations touches on the traditional way of doing things, and then there's need for harmonization, refining, and a serious change management aspect for people to adopt and start utilizing the digital space. The other one is that coordinated effort is required so that all the innovation at all levels in the country. We don't need to see only this being seen in the line of rail, urban areas. The government has prioritized to go up to constituency level, and that's very important. So the other part of policy and regulation is a coordinated approach and also customer awareness to ensure that even the capabilities of the citizenry should be tapped into. I've finished on policy. We have identified gaps. There may be some more gaps that I haven't mentioned, but they're there in the report. Let's quickly go to the infrastructure. Under the infrastructure, we have fiber that is over 13,000 kilometers, but we are saying that's not good enough to measure kilometers. We need to measure how much do we have points of presence in the 116 districts. We have about 90 districts that have got fiber point of presence, and that fiber helps us to connect also to the communication towers, which are over 3,000 communication towers in the country. These are for mobile connectivity, and we use that as the last mile connectivity for accessing the digital services. And then it's very clear that we are predominantly looking at mobile coverage at 92%. Our target is to be at 96%. Despite this 92%, there are some areas that are still unsaved and undersaved, and we still have quality issues in these areas, and this needs to be addressed. So apart from the infrastructure, we don't just look at the supply side, we also look at access devices. We have more feature phones than smartphones, and that is a challenge in terms of services that can be packaged through the apps and so forth. Then we also have something that has already been mentioned, the issue about digital identity, which is key to value-added services. So Zambia has to be transformed by having this national ID, which is called Integrated National Registration Information System, which in essence this year, pilot services have already commenced. I think the minister can speak to that. And we now going to have a digital ID that will be used for e-government services, e-commerce services, and improve on e-KYC, know your customer. Challenges still persist, enabling access to this digital infrastructure across the country, but these are still being addressed. So, like I mentioned, we still have a coverage problem, and predominantly, even when we say communication towers, we are on 2G. You know about 2G? It means it's more voice, but it reaches very far. But when we go to 4G, the coverage area is very short. But again, that's where we want the services to our 1 million social protection beneficiary, 1 million beneficiary on FISIP or now ASP, and quite a number of targeted 10,000 schools, the 3,000 hospitals. All these, we see that there is need to have to move on not only on 2G and migrate to 4G. And government policy direction is to ensure that we have services that will reach in the underserved and unsaved areas. So last mile connectivity, of course, is a very big challenge. And also the digital ID, which we have already commenced, but we need to escalate so that the benefits can be felt by all. So infrastructure as a service, so that around the infrastructure, we can work around to ensure that empowerment programs are anchored there. Skills and capacity. We can have the infrastructure, you have the policy, but consumption. So here, it's very clear that basic skills, literacy is number one. People should be able to read and write. Number two, there's still challenges. People can talk, but they cannot type even on USSD, so that we can have those SMS. Very important aspect. So there's need also for us to improve on digital, numerical, and financial literacy, because we want to reduce on the use of cash. So we go cash right. So we feel the skills and capacity, we can take advantage of the youthful population that embrace innovation, creativity, and technology. So of course, the gaps that I can just pick maybe 3. There's need to improve infrastructure needed to deliver ICT in both education and health. We need to fill in the human resource gap in the ICT. And also we need to improve skills to enable active participation in the digital economy. In the innovation space, that's the last one. Now, innovation is about a culture of creativity and innovation across all our priority economic areas. Therefore, access to affordable and appropriate financing still remains the biggest challenge in innovation. There are isolated areas where innovation is happening and entrepreneurship being encouraged. We have programs such as from the government side, we have ZICTA through the ICT innovators. We have Bongo Hive, we have Jacaranda Hub, we have Ascana Network, and many others. And this is why when we assessed this area, we found that we are still below 50%, actually it's about 38%. That shows that we're not doing very well in terms of innovation. Yes, things have started, but I think we need to improve on the innovation and entrepreneurship. So the gaps is about funding for promising startups, and also these innovation hubs should have tangible products, artifacts that come out, as opposed just to measure the inputs, 1, 2, 3, they are doing innovation hubs. We need to measure also what has come out of those innovation hubs. The next one is policy framework to encourage innovation has to be enhanced, and also the linkages between the industry, the academia, and also to increase the industry-ready graduates that are skilled, competent, and that can use their innovation, their skills to develop products that are not available, or those that are not being provided for in a more effective and efficient manner. The last issue that is not part of the 4 ideas, but is one component we added, was the issue of digital platforms and services. We know very well that there's quite a lot that's happening in the financial sector because of financial inclusive agenda. We find that there's a lot of use of mobile money. We have all the internet banking. We have the e-wallets. We know that there's now a financial switch, and issues of interoperability is key to ensure that we do not need to get the money from a digital platform, get it out in cash, and again put it another platform. So that's where the issue of interoperability is coming in. And finally, the fragmented digital ecosystem that inhibits growth is also being addressed even from the government point of view. Of course, the government sales bus and payment gateway being one such key platform that governments delivering services that are over 100 to citizens. So there are also specific sector efforts such as smart care. We have the Zambia Integrated Agriculture Information System. We have areas like the tax online. And also we need to see much more even in other areas so that the whole use of the digital platforms can help and improve the digital economy. The challenges that we identified includes the integrated and interoperable digital ecosystem, which I already mentioned, the issue of the financial sector to really go out there and ensure that even our marketeers can be able to use electronic means of payments and receive money using that platform. There should be also a business case for promotion and adoption of digital services. I think we need also to inculcate a culture of use of these digital platforms, and also to increase awareness, capabilities, and the cybersecurity, which is threatening many who feel they'll be swindled. In conclusion, I would say the scorecard has represented and shown, Zambia being at 45%, we have potential to grow its ICT capacity and transition to actually being a regional hub. Being land linked with 8 countries around us, that shows that we can actually leapfrog and even go to the expansion phase. We need to increase and leverage on the policy and regulation so that even the digital infrastructure can be well harnessed. Skills and innovation, we performed very low, below average. That is the potential that can be exploited to make a difference in all areas. Limited signage and collaboration within the sector, and this partly has contributed to the slowed growth. Where this status report has shown us, this is not the end. It is this status report now that helps us to chart the way forward through the National ICT Policy 2022. This is the same status that has helped us now to start working around and finalize our national digital transformation strategy. And at the same time, this will help us and has helped us to include these gaps and the recommendation in the report to put it in the 8th National Development Plan. And that means that we have a strong foundation now. Zambia has a strong foundation for digital transformation. So the ID system I've mentioned will ensure that it will be easily accessible to the use cases across all demographic. Affordability is an issue. The tax policy around the digital space is also being explored, and discussion and submissions that have come to ensure that the cost of doing business, including the use of ICT, can be reduced. This is the Inclusive Digital Economy Status Report, where we have scored 45%. The next time it will be done, definitely our aim is not 50%, it's 75% and above. I thank you.
Thank you for that elaborate presentation, Director. We can take 1 or 2 questions on the presentation while we still have the Director. I have a hand this side.
Thank you very much, Director. I always enjoy your presentations. I heard you speak about, my name is Charity Chikumbi from Financial Sector Deepening Zambia. I heard you speak about reaching out to ordinary people, ordinary women and others to transfer some digital skills so they'll be able to enjoy the services that you're working to draft. I wonder what you're doing beyond policy to reach out to community so that when you are ready for e-government, when you're ready for e-services, how ready is the citizenry to then access these services? How much is preparation into ensuring that ordinary people are ready, because we noticed that even during the COVID time, as the banks closed doors, as the service provider tried to shift them to digital platforms, there was a lot of hesitation and because of scale. So what are you doing differently so that people are more equipped? Thank you.
Hello, thank you very much. That's a very important question. And I think it was even raised to say, yes, we've scored very well at policy level, but maybe things are not being seen trickling down. It's a known fact that literacy is a very vital ingredient. You can have the technology, you can have all the strategies, you can have the policy, but if those that are supposed to consume or exploit the digital platform are not empowered, then we have a very big challenge. And that challenge is not for government alone. And that is very key. If government we have a strategy now for change management and adoption. We need to ensure that people embrace technology. We need to make sure that people adopt these new technologies. But not only embracing and adopting, we need them to utilize. And to utilize means we need to improve on the skill set. And where do we start from? One of the identified areas is the issues of the kids in school from elementary education. These are not only to be predominantly be driven by government. We now have had quite a very busy first quarter, reaching out to Jacaranda Hub, reaching out to Bongo Hive, reaching out to other partners so that we have a harmonized and coordinated way of understanding segmentation of these people that are vulnerable. So it's not only about just skilling them up, but also to ensure that in their hands, they can have tools to access, such as even the feature phones. We can put USSD so that they can just say *#, then they are able to access a service where they are. So it's a question of change management, but it's a question also of targeting the women, targeting the youths, targeting even traditional leadership, because sometimes if government alone, it's not possible. So the focus now is, what about the constituencies? Who else can work with us to improve the digital literacy? Which are the areas? We have over almost 12,000 schools. Those are the areas where we think now we can use that to leverage capacity building. And not only that, affordability of the devices also, so that after they have skilled, so what? So that they don't have gadgets. So we need to have the gadgets. And this gadget, the highest one, is the mobile phone. And we think that the question of race is not something we have the totality of the answer, but steps have already started where our colleagues from Smart Zambia with the change management and adoption strategy, our colleagues from the private sector, and also banks have been so very inclusive in this journey. And we have seen hubs, and we think that we can have a more coordinated way of scaling up the skills. Both literacy first, they need just to know how to read and write. And secondly, simplify our services so that it's not very technically difficult to access a government service. You need to have a diploma to just get money. No, I think we need to simplify that so that it's user-friendly.
Thank you for that. I'll allow for one more question with the Honorable Minister's indulgence. If there are no other questions.
I was thinking one of the veterans, Mr. Havenzu, would have asked a question. He doesn't have. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. I'll now call upon the UN representative, Mr. Lawrence, to give us his remarks.
Good morning. Honorable Minister of Technology and Science, Mr. Felix Mutati, MP, Mr. John Shimbella, Director of Planning, Ministry of Technology and Science, representing the Permanent Secretary, Mr. Milner Makani, Director of Communication, Ministry of Technology and Science, senior government officials, heads of cooperation, development partners, UN colleagues, members of the civil society, members of the private sector, distinguished guests. It is a great honor and a privilege for me to deliver a statement on behalf of the United Nations system in Zambia at this important event for the launch of the Zambia Inclusive Digital Economy Status Report 2022. Allow me to thank the government for its leadership in the development of this report, which is key in making progress on national development priorities, including the Sustainable Development Goals. As an all-weather partner of the government and people of Zambia, the United Nations in Zambia, through one of its agencies, the United Nations Capital Development Fund, or UNCDF, will continue supporting the government of Zambia in delivering on its goals and aspirations, leaving no one behind. The development of this report is very timely, as the world is increasingly going digital. Digital technology is critical in assisting countries to promote economic growth, including supporting and accelerating progress for the achievement of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. I'm pleased to note that the government of the Republic of Zambia has placed great emphasis on transforming the country into a digital economy, ensuring that the country adopts digital technologies in all the key sectors of the economy. The report we're launching today supports other existing reports, including the Digital Economy for Africa initiative by the World Bank, which was launched in 2019 in support of the African Union's digital transformation strategy. The importance of digital technology was seen by many countries during the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, forcing many countries, including Zambia, to make full use of digital technologies to ensure continued service provision and using digital communication channels to provide reliable information on the pandemic. During lockdowns, characterized by restrictions on physical activity and mobility, as well as social distancing measures, many countries increased their dependency on the internet for dissemination of information and to keep people, governments, and businesses connected. It is therefore important that the government of the Republic of Zambia to use the COVID-19 crisis as an opportunity to establish tailor-made digital government tools and strategies necessary for the promotion of economic growth. Honorable Minister, for the government's vision of building a digital economy to be realized, digital technologies are fundamental for change that can impact all aspects of development. Incorporating digital economies in all sectors can drive national development and support the achievement of the SDGs. Digital technology can be used to improve service delivery to all, thereby including all marginalized groups, including women, youth, refugees, among others. The UN in Zambia, through UNCDF and other agencies, has been supporting the government's effort to grow digital economies through various efforts in innovation, through digital technologies across various sectors, from innovative waste management solutions to digitalizing village saving groups, including social cash transfer programs using mobile money, including in refugee camps and beyond. It is also important to note that digital technologies can make development initiatives more accessible to those who are vulnerable, marginalized, and underserved. Further, digital technologies can unlock innovative solutions to protracted, complex development challenges and help countries to skip traditional stages of development, from digital banking to blockchain or telemedicine, as a few examples. It is pleasing to note that the development of this report has brought various stakeholders into the government development agenda, creating a more resilient economy and deepening economic opportunities in the country. As I conclude, I wish to encourage the government to continue embracing and advancing policies related to technological developments and take advantage of the digital opportunities to support its long-term sustainable development plans, while ensuring cooperation with the broader ecosystems to enable digital technologies to be used in an inclusive manner, including the traditionally marginalized groups such as women, youth, rural populations, and older people. And the presenters this morning emphasized the need for infrastructure, for skill development, and also for affordability, so that these marginalized groups can take full advantage of these opportunities. As United Nations, we eagerly await for the forthcoming revised ICT policy and the new digital transformation strategy as part of activities and initiatives to further the development of Zambia's digital economy. The UN supports Zambia's digital transformation that has steadily moved from areas such as financial services to sectors that include education, agriculture, and transport in meeting critical societal needs. To close, allow me to congratulate once again the government through the Ministry of Technology and Science for shedding light on the status of digital economy in Zambia. I also wish to congratulate the UNCDF for this groundbreaking work with the Inclusive Digital Economic Scorecard in Zambia and for its continued support to digital inclusion. I thank you.
Thank you for those remarks, Mr. Lorenz. We have one question, Director, for your interest. This is from one of our participants online. I'll read it out. The question is, has the report quantified in terms of the infrastructure and the geographical composition of our country?
The report, as using the IDES scorecard, actually they leveraged on the reports that were already existing. There was a ZICTA assessment for communication towers, and this translated to the communication towers that we need to reach our geographical reach up to 96% coverage is to have 600 more towers, then we can have a fair assessment. And these are dotted around the 10 provinces. However, despite that these towers are there, the issue of again doing a new assessment just to understand areas where the quality is not as good because of certain factors and population growth. So therefore, the national optic fiber also was assessed, and that's why we are able to know that we only have 90 districts out of 116 that has got fiber. But more importantly, to reach out to the vulnerable people, in our assessment, it shows that fiber may not reach every village, but there are other areas where we can leverage on satellite or VSAT to reach out to those areas, and communication towers is one of the areas. Then for public service, Smart Zambia Institute have also assessed all the 116 districts to ensure that government offices that are on the supply side are also connected. So far now, it shows that we are at 236 government institutions connected to the government-wide area network and unified internet. So yes, we hope that going forward, we'll be able to show in very detailed level quantification, and this is not what government alone would do, But that's what government can do in part through universal access, and also what the private sector can tap in so that together we can have our focus on population coverage and not only on geographical coverage. So with the census, it will be easier to know, because the consumers that we measure, as infrastructure goes where they are and in areas where there's need to have that infrastructure. So it's not only communication towers, we're talking about fiber, we are talking also about the other wireless technologies, and then we can even tap into the 5G as we leverage on emerging services that can be given to the citizenry.
Thank you for your response, Director. One key takeaway is that this is not government alone. It's government and all the cooperating partners. It's for all of us to be part of this journey. At this moment, I'm going to call upon Director Shimbela to call upon our guest of honor to give his remarks.
Thank you, Master of Ceremony. Thank you, colleagues. I think we are getting edified with the information that is coming through. And I think we've been educated enough in terms of the report that is given and the key focus areas that it's looking at as we prepare as government to digitally make Zambia the ICT hub of Southern Africa. Allow me to now, at this moment, call upon our Honorable Minister to deliver his remarks and officially launch our report. And I hope the crew is ready with the presentary so that once he's done giving his remarks, then we can go straight into him launching the report. Honorable Minister, please.
Thank you and good morning again. The UN coordinator, thank you for the wonderful speech. I can see in the audience prominent colleagues, and if I start to name them one by one, I may miss out one, but thank you for coming through this morning to the launch. Let me just say, all protocols observed, ladies and gentlemen. One of the first things that the new Dawn government did is to create the Ministry of Technology and Science. This was a decisive move in order to drive the digital transformation of the Zambian economy. That was the main purpose. Most of you will recall in 2020, we had the World Bank issue the economic diagnostic study, which indicated in the report that Zambia has got strong foundation for the use of digital tools to drive the transformation that is required in the social and economic area as set out in the Vision 2030. What we have heard this morning indicates that at 45%, we still have a lot of work that requires to be done to transform the economy of Zambia into a digital economy. And listening to the presentation by the director, I think there are 5 pillars that we need to focus on that have been elaborated upon in the situation analysis report. Understanding the challenges, but perhaps focusing more on what we need to do going forward. And the first pillar the director touched upon was the issue of digital infrastructure. The combination of the public sector and the private sector, you have placed significant investment in digital infrastructure to the extent we are told that coverage has reached 92%. In part thanks to the private sector, we have got Airtel and other operators who have been investing considerably in digital infrastructure. And beyond that, there's been significant investment in optic fiber and also towers. So in that area, we are saying that we have adequate investment. Yet again, we have a challenge. And the key challenge from a customer perspective is the whole issue of affordability, access, and availability. That is what matters to the citizens, and that's what matters to the customers. So what we need to solve going forward is how can we, one, address the challenges for the last mile? What innovation do we need to put in place? Number two, how can we, with the players in the sector, address the issue of integration of infrastructure in order to ensure that the landed cost of communication is kept low? And working across government, we need to plan and ensure that we have infrastructure in terms of power to drive the delivery in the last mile. These are critical elements in the area of infrastructure, which we need to do. So as we are given the 45%, we still have got heavy lifting that we require to do. And in particular, we shall be having a closed door conversation with the telcos on integration of infrastructure. We can't have optic fiber by two operators going the same direction. It's costing the economy. We can't have data centers that are underutilized and more is being invested in data centers. That is a cost to the ultimate consumer. That we need to deal with. So I'm saying that there's heavy lifting in digital infrastructure, but we need to work with the private sector in order to solve the problem. That is the first pillar. The second pillar is digital platforms. And this is around the services that are delivered by governments to business, the services that are delivered by government to the citizens, and the services and operations of government within government. The overall objective is for us to ensure that we create convenience, reliability, and transparency in the delivery of government services. That is what is important. Now, what is the problem at the moment, which the director referred to, and which we are working at aggressively? We have to achieve before the end of this year to answer to the multiple contacts that citizens are having with government. to answer to the disparity of common data by government institutions. Only yesterday, we were at RATSAM and we had the Insurance Association. In the same economy, the Insurance Association has got 300,000 vehicles insured. RATSA has got over 400 vehicles that have got discs. And their database has got over 800,000 vehicles. So you are saying, how can we use a digital solution to have just one common number? And that is a challenge. It indicates to you that we have got significant revenue leakages that we need to go to deal with. You can't move from 800 to 300. Who is paying the price? The people of Zambia. So when you say that there's no liquidity in the economy, it's because the digital transformation that needs to take place is not happening fast enough. And that's what we need to address ourselves to. ZRM, they have done their bit. But you find that the database that I've got, when you compare it with NAPSA, the differential between the two is significant. And yet we have got talented Zambians who are good at this issue of digital. But when it comes to aggregating the database, we have a variance. So when we underperform in terms of tax collection, it's only because we don't have integrated data. And the people that know better than I do, they are saying that ultimately our journey should be to have common data as a nation. And in order for you to achieve common data, you need to deal with the basics. And one of the key basics that you need to deal with is a digital ID. One digital ID. So that you enter the Zambian economy, whether you are entering at the bank level, at the hospital level, at the mortuary level, you have a single identity. Then you can create a common data for the whole nation. So for me, digital platforms are key. And the third pillar that Director referred to is digital financial services. We think the report has articulated itself fairly well through the director. And we think that financial inclusion through provision of financial services should be the first touch point to drive a digital economy. That is what we must be able to use. Because lots of Zambians are using mobile, they are using this, they are using that. The challenge that we have in the financial sector is that we need to address holding on to territory, holding on to customers, holding on to the syndrome that this is mine. And therefore, if you want to enter my space, you have to leave your space in order to enter my space. So the transactions are emptied in basket A, and then they take a walk to enter basket B. And that thing is called interoperate. So unless we interoperate, cutting across the telcos, the banking institutions, and the groceries, we have only one transaction. If you go to a supermarket, you have those point of sale machines, maybe 10 of them for different operators. We only need to have one point of sale in any shop. That is what we need to do. And that is simply called interoperate. And that should be the goal. So director, like we spoke yesterday, we need to get the players in this business, including the central bank, and say ultimately the benefit to interoperate will accrue to the economy, will minimize the transaction cost on the customer, because the more he transacts with various points, the more he pays. So when you say we are poor, it's because we are creating multiple transactions deliberately on the people of Zambia, creating deliberate poverty by not doing the right thing, which is digitization. So we are poor not because we don't know. We are poor because we are selfish. We are holding on to territory. So that is your digital financial services. Number 4 is digital skills and digital literacy. For me, this is very key. We have a challenge that the entire system of education is around engaging that Zambian who is now begged to go and seek employment. The component of entrepreneurship in the curriculum is absent. So we learn to work. So when we say we don't have enough jobs, it's because we have not designed our curricula to be able to attend to those that are going to be entrepreneurs and create jobs. So our digital skills director said 41%, too long. We need to do a little bit better. So if there's any collaboration that we need to do within the government and the private sector, in order to get a digital economy, is for us to attend to digital skills and financial literacy. And the last pillar is digital entrepreneurship and innovation. Very, very key. You are not going to grow the economy if you don't invest in entrepreneurship and innovation. We are aware of the challenges. Maybe 2 key challenges. One, how do we create access to affordable, patient, and appropriate financing, such as venture capital? Director was telling me yesterday, and I hope you deliver, Director, since you're fresh, that we are at the stage where we have secured approval from the Ministry of Justice to create a venture capital fund. And we think that with a venture capital fund, patient fund, we shall be able, working with the cooperating partners, the private sector, and say, how can we drive innovation in this country? For me, that is, Director, one of your P1s. If there's anything that you're going to do this month, just deliver for me that SI, which you said yesterday was ready. Saying it and delivering are 2 different things. I want it on my table so then I'll know that, yes, now we can move to the next level. Let's not work like typical civil servants where we are just engaged in conversations and not outputs. What is important are outputs, not the ability to have an engagement and productive conversations on how we have done and how we have not. But when you look at the output side, it's strange. We need a mindset change if we're going to achieve the transformation that we need to do. So these 5 pillars, Director, will now formulate our 5D strategy in digital transformation. We are going to call it the 5D digital transformation strategy. I don't want many pages, 1 page per pillar. Zambians are normally fatigued to read many pages. If you can't summarize your thoughts on 1 page, it's not worthwhile. Let's keep it 5 pages, and we shall say this is the 5D strategy. Anything beyond that is waffling. It's purely investing in words. And we are where we are as a country because we have disproportionately invested in conversation in words and big volumes so that the average Zambian is held back from engaging. And the definition of poverty is that beware. Avoid reading because you are threatened by volume. When you just see it, you are saying, no, this I can't read. So Director, keep it 5 pages. Any Zambian can read 5 pages. And that will be a 5D strategy, including the civil service. They'll be able to do the 5. So beyond that, beyond the strategy, I know you're working on policy, you're working on the legal environment, we're working on the partnership with the UN, with the private sector, and everybody else. That will be contained at the back of the booklet. And the back will be collaboration, partnership, and integration. And those who want to fill in the dots, we shall put dot, dot, dot. So if you are UN, you put UN as you read the backside. If you are the private sector, Airtel, you put Airtel as you read the backside. And other private sector players. We are certainly confident that this year will be transformative in terms of digital transformation and creating and strengthening the legs of a digital economy. The answer to that lies with you. I wish you well.
I'll ask the High Table to join the Honorable Minister as he unveils the Inclusive Digital Economy Status Report. Honorable Minister, you may do the honors.
Colleagues, we have a copy and copies of the situation analysis of digital transformation. So everybody will get a copy, read it, but the next book will only be 5 pages.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. We've taken note, 5 pages and no more. We can have one picture in here. Thank you so much. At this point in time, we come to the end of our program. The Honorable Minister will be with us for just a few minutes as he interacts with the rest of the audience. Thank you.